They say never take advice from someone you wouldn't want to trade places with. If you've been to any doctor's office lately, well, you already know what I'm about to say. How can we take advice from overweight physicians? That's the tough question my next guest asked himself. He was a 350-pound medical doctor, failing to find results from mainstream advice until he did his own research, applied what he learned, and lost 150 pounds. Now he helps others break free from yo-yo diets and preventable disease with his private practice and his podcast. Today he's going to talk about his story and answer the question, how can we find vitality in a system that supports disease tolerance? Pragmatic practitioner, teacher of transformation, board-certified internal medicine and obesity medicine physician, Dr. Tro Kalayjian. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. What an introduction. So, yeah, absolutely. It's funny. People ask that. Can you take advice from an obese physician? Like that's an interesting question. And I was that obese physician, and I gave advice for a long time. And I was smart. That's the worst part. I was so, like I'm not trying to toot my horn. I scored on the 90th percentile on my board exam, so I was smart, but I had no idea how to manage chronic disease, and that was clear, And so how can somebody or a profession be so smart yet so dumb?
Oh, yeah, that is the big question, isn't it? I would love to hear your perspective of what it felt like to be in your shoes, what it felt like physically, what it felt like cognitively to be carrying that weight around, especially as a physician.
Yeah, I think, well, just imagine, okay, you go through years of training, okay, you go through years of training and you go to a Yale affiliated internal medicine program, you take the board exam, you scored on the 90th percentile, you think you're hot stuff, but you're not, right? And all the stress, the sleeplessness, it catches up with you. You gain 10 pounds a year, and you find yourself insatiably hungry, right? And in fact, you were always hungry. I mean, going back to when I was, 10 years old, I remember I had a nickname. It was called the vacuum cleaner, and that's what my cousins would call me because I had this voracious appetite. But when you're young, you could kind of get away with it, but then life catches up with you. And then I'm gaining 10 pounds per year in medical school, college, before that, and then in residency, another 10 pounds per year. And, what they teach is calories. You got to count your calories, right? But, they don't teach you that is incredibly wrong, right? It's incredibly wrong to focus on something like calories. In fact, focusing on calories saps most people's willpower. Right? When they have to track calories, count calories, they feel like their willpower sapped, but they don't teach you that. They tell you, hey, look, this is the messaging, right? And you accept it because how can we be trained so well and how can we be so evidence-based that, why would we question, they made a pyramid, right? Based off of evidence. And at the bottom is, bread and then you have fruits and, potatoes and beans, and that's healthy eating. So why, and the AHA says vegetables are healthy, and, the AHA says don't eat red meat. So why would I question any of that, right? This is evidence-based medicine, supposedly, right? And that's the problem, right? Is that really, really smart doctors say, maybe I don't need to question it. And that's my story. That's what it was like. It was, I'm a 90th percentile score on my internal medicine board exam. I was a chief resident in a Yale program. I'm not dumb. I certainly have willpower, right? So yeah, I think you know something, but you don't, right? And what did it feel like? I mean, tired all the time. Imagine feeling tired all the time, never having the energy, never wanting to, never you remember exercising in your youth and loving it. And now it's like, I can't even dream of exercising. It's like a chore. Every part of your body hurts. and you're not depressed, but like you just know you're not living to your potential, right?
And
And
so many
so,
people around you are having similar experiences like, oh, you're 30 now, your knees are supposed to hurt. And well, it's genetic, don't you know? And I'm certainly medical school, parts of it probably felt like hazing with the lack of sleep and, the rigorous stuff that you have to do. So it's kind of like this accepted defeat of mental energy and motivation.
yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody's gaining weight around you. And it's funny, I'm training with the brightest minds and leading cardiologists, leading endocrinologists, and they're saying, well, maybe you should just count your calories. It was almost like, and it's funny, I remember, somebody posted me one of this experts in obesity medicine, and, I was so enamored by her. And I said, she said to me, maybe you're depressed. And I was like so lost for why I was overweight that I would sit there and take the depression screen like a couple times a week. Like maybe that explains it. And I wasn't depressed, certainly maybe more confused than anything else. But that's how desperate I was to find a way to break free. And then, if you look back and it kind of all makes sense. I mean, I don't have a willpower deficiency. That's not the issue, right? You can't go to medical school, get through medical school, do that, and have a willpower deficiency. Most people don't have a willpower deficiency. Most people, do also what they're told, right? Like you can see that with, yeah, there are some people who won't do it, but for the majority, most people, like take anything in recent times, like masking. 80% of Americans wore masks, right? 80%, right? 80% got vaccinated. I'm not telling you to do it or not do it or whether it has merit or not, but if they're told to do something and it's healthy for them,
Right.
most people will do it. So the thing is that I did what I was told. I would count my calories, but then, when you're sleep deprived and you're, it's a late night or you're out of code, at the hospital and you see a brownie or something like that, or you see a cookie on the table, it's not like you're ignoring it, but you just don't think about it, right? You're not like, most of our eating is subconscious. So the whole concept of counting calories is just, it's not effective. Most of our eating is subconscious. And if you tend to eat more, like the vacuum cleaner, right? So you will eat much more subconsciously than the average person, right? So the thing is, this concept of counting calories, it puts undue pressure on the people who are most likely to gain weight. Nobody ever said, why are you eating? Nobody asked me that. They said, did you count your calories? Maybe you're depressed, right? Those are the things people said to me, with regards to my weight. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I think it's interesting because kind of what you're alluding to is, well, a lot of people continue to have this kind of struggle, yet they're doing what the, doctors, the experts recommend, and they're still kind of stuck there. And I think it's safe to say that, doctors are doing the best that they can in the system, right? But the system's overwhelmed.
No. They're
No?
not doing the best they can. Nope. I'm sorry. I can't stand by this any longer. They're not doing the best they can. Okay? Because it's so easy. It's so easy to do better. It's so easy to do better. And I was just reading. So here I have right now, right in my arm. Okay, this is Obesity, the research journal, right? And I have an article that was just published. Right? I'm just looking at this article. It's just published. This is like the best and the brightest in obesity medicine. Oh my God. This is the best and the brightest in obesity medicine. And here is a leading prominent university setting up a primary care-based weight loss program. And in 6 months, they achieved a 3-pound reduction in weight. Okay? And that's 3 pounds, yeah, versus the people who are not in the intervention. 3-pound difference, right?
If I
So,
have a good poop, it's 3 pounds difference.
so I'm
What?
sorry. Okay. So, and they're publishing this. Here it is, published, right? So you can see it for other people. It's published this, 3 pound difference in weight at 12 months. So in our program, right, we just published our results. In 6 months, we got a 38-pound weight loss, right? So if you think to yourself, how do you do this, right? How is it that Tro did this, and you talk about they mean well, right? Well, what exactly does it mean well? When they told me for years, count your calories and maybe take a depression survey, do they mean well? I think that they were lazy. I think they didn't give a shit. Am I allowed to curse?
Totally.
Okay, perfect. I think they didn't give a shit. I think, right, it's my belief, right, that they didn't question the guidelines for 70 years. They didn't say, what if we're wrong? They didn't say that, right? And the leading experts didn't say that. And only a small fraction of people said that. And those people were shooed off the stage, like Robert Atkins.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think that they all mean well, and we can't just give them a free pass anymore, right? We can't do that because they're not growing. Our profession is not growing. In the past 70 years, obesity has blossomed, diabetes has blossomed, arthritis has blossomed, mental health has blossomed. All of these things have expanded seemingly exponentially. And so we can't any longer say, well, it's the patient's fault, just be a little less sad, just, have a little less cancer, eat less, have a little less joint disease. It's not acceptable. And so, when you say they mean well, what I think you mean is they had intentions to heal people to go into the profession.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true, but they don't give a shit enough to do something about it. They don't care. They accept, the way it is. And that is really, really dangerous, right? That's dangerous for people who need better. And it's so clear that we need better.
I think we all need better.
Yeah, and the problem is, you talked about the system. This is like the most important part that I think most people have to understand is when we talk about the medical system, we're talking about insurance company paying doctors to see you, right? To basically see you again and again, right? So there's no reward for the physician to heal you. In fact, he or she is penalized when they get you less healthy and you need them less often, right? So they just make money when they see you, like come back and see me, come back and see me, come back and see me. And the more they see you, the more money they make. And the sicker you get, the more they see you, right? So this whole system, and the more stuff they do to you, the more they get paid. So, and the person is left out of it. There's a person, there's a doctor, and there's an insurance company. And the insurance company and the doctor, they have this arrangement that the person knows nothing about. So if you really want to affect people, you need to find in that system, that insurance-based, encounter-based system, right? It has basically made doctors not care. And then what they do is they prescribe drugs, and some of these drugs are helpful, right? Some of the drugs are helpful, but what the drugs do is the doctor now did something, so he's safe.
Yeah.
And the doctor now has to see you to refill them. It's easy for the doctor. So the system has been made to make it easy for the doctor, right? And it's been made so that the insurance company and the doctor have some sort of agreement, and it has nothing to do with the person's health. So when you take a body of doctors who don't question anything and just say, you know what, the pyramid makes sense, right? And when you combine that with an incentive not to do any better, right, the patients suffer. And so that was me, right?
Yeah.
I was with the smartest doctors, and I'll tell you, they don't know shit.
And
Sorry.
there we have it. No, you don't. I think, see,
and I'm an introvert, so, I'm an introvert. So,
Well, I think it's interesting when we talk to doctors, maybe friends who are physicians or just, I don't know, nurses, and, they talk about the system being burdened. And so the question that kind of comes up in my mind, you hit on, is if the system is so burdened, the CDC says 73% of adult Americans are overweight. So clearly the answer is yeah, systems burden. So if that's true, if we accept that as true, and not being overweight would cause a reduction in these preventable diseases that are in fact overburdening the system, wouldn't it make sense that every doctor would have a conversation with their patient about being within a healthy weight? But that's not at all what happens. And you just kind of explained how, the behind the curtain of it.
Well, I don't think it's that nefarious. I don't think doctors are sitting there thinking, well, I'm going to prescribe this person. No, it's like, oh, you have obesity. Okay, go lose weight. Code for that.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay, you have hypertension. I found it. Here's a medication. Code for that. Right? So this is like they're just cogs. They're not thinking. They're like lemmings. You're just going 7 minutes to think about something and not doing anything. Right? And I don't think anybody's sitting there thinking like, let me make this, let me make money off of diagnosing and treating hypertension in a conventional way. They don't think that way, but the whole system has made them think that way, and they've agreed to it implicitly, right? Right. So they've agreed to it. So I think it's about time we stop letting physicians get away with this. Like, stop going to shitty doctors. Like, just stop.
Yeah, so that's
it's not helping you.
That's the question, is about, people who are wanting more. They're kind of opening their eyes to like, hey, you know what? Knee pain doesn't have to be just a regular part of my life. I don't have to accept that. Or maybe they're healthy like I am, and when I go to the doctor, they have no idea what to do with me. It's a very frustrating experience because I'm there for, as a well person, they're looking for extended vitality, and they're like, yeah, we don't do that here. So for people who are in either camp, right, healthy, looking for vitality, or unwell and looking for sustainable solutions that aren't automatically pharmaceutical, how are they supposed to start that conversation with a physician, or find the physician that will have the right conversation without any medical background themselves?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I don't blame them, because you have two camps of doctors, or like two gross camps. You have people who are way deep in the weeds and drinking the Kool-Aid, and maybe they're doing all sorts of things that I wouldn't say I wouldn't do them, but I wouldn't say that there's a strong evidence base for them, right? So, I mean, you'd imagine like your typical medical spa with, acupuncture, Botox, plus or minus IV infusions, plus or minus red light, plus or minus holistic herbs, right? You have this camp of doctors, but what they embrace is let's get you well. Their culture of let's get you well and let's think differently is great. But what they turn to, often when you're dealing with things that don't have a strong evidence base, may be questionable. And then you have the alternative, which is your conventional doc in a box who's like, red light, like, I don't know what that is, and low carb, like, it's going to give you a heart attack. So there's this middle ground, right, of I need a team that can get me well, keep me disease free. That's not like, injecting colloidal silver and which I'm not even talking about. There may be some merits to colloidal silver, but
I've never even heard of that. I don't even know what that is.
I mean, whatever. This is all, look, we live in an interesting world, and there's all sorts of cool. I mean, you heard of red light therapy, I'm sure, IV vitamins, and these are typical things that are just a little off the beaten path. And conventional medicine frowns on it, but alternative medicine embraces it. So there's this huge gap, right? People know to find the IV vitamin shop where to go. People know if they want conventional doc in the box where to go. And then it's like, well, wait a second, we're all the real people in between. It's kind of like politics, you get these like crazy people on the left and these crazy people on the right, and you're like, where are all the normal people? And so because it's very tribal, and that's a problem. People can't get good care. I think the first place to start is find care outside of insurance. If you want excellent care, you have to go to a service-based business, right? Because if they're not, if they're not getting good results, right, then people would leave. Now, the problem is when you go to a service-based business that's cash-based, it could be all marketing, so you don't really know. The second thing I go do is, have they published anything, right? So if you're a doctor, if you've been passionate about medicine, helping people, if you saw colloidal silver or red light therapy did something awesome that nobody else has seen, or that you're seeing so widespread that you feel like we need to put there's going to be a doctor or clinical team that's going to say, I need to put this into the literature, right? So, and I'm not saying people who don't put it into literature don't, have bad insights, but now okay, it's somebody who's outside of the system and somebody who's, who cares enough to take the extra step, right? And so if you have, I think these are two key things, because there's a lot of, guru marketers that make their alternative medicine look very chic, but they're very predatory, right? And then alternatively, the doc in the box down the street, I mean, I know the guy down the street from me, it's funny, there's a medical weight loss guy, that like literally not even a mile away in our small little town. And, he writes shakes and does HCG and, writes for pills on day one. So, and there's a guy down the other street, about 2 miles down who, practically starves you and puts a patch behind your ear, So this is like, and people go to them, and it amazes me how people end up there, but to navigate it, I'd say find somebody that's, owes their service to the person in front of them, not an insurance company, and then find somebody who gives a crap enough to either be involved in leadership, act, some sort of, active role in the community that they're involved in, the medical community they're involved in, and that has published research.
Those are good tips. When someone comes to you, to your office, as a patient who's obese, what is the first thing you recommend to them to start them off getting on track?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. It's often very individual. I think it's easy in our modern world to say to somebody with severe obesity, and particularly if they have prediabetes, diabetes. If they have severe obesity, prediabetes or diabetes, it's very easy to say, cut your carbohydrates, processed carbs, sugar, right? It's almost like you can close your eyes and turn a key. When you do that, you have to be careful, because there are some people like me, for example, who need not only a nutritional message, they also need a behavioral message. And that's tough to do. So, if low carb worked for everybody and there weren't more things to do, Atkins would have solved this problem a long time ago. So before we got on, I was telling you about my day. I mean, we had a patient who had Cushing's disease, which is a hormonal state caused by a brain tumor, who had come to me because it was difficult to lose weight. So it's complicated, right? It's not always as simple as, go low carb. And there may be a weird, issue, whether it's genetics or, some hormonal issue, but even those are rare. The most common, brain tumors are rare causes of obesity.
Yeah, thank goodness, right?
Yeah, but most commonly there's serious issues with relationship to food. And that's very challenging. And exploring that with a patient, and it's tough for people to understand, what does this mean, relationship to food? And the easiest way I could say it is, their emotions are manipulated, their logic is manipulated, their self-advocacy is manipulated, and their outlook's manipulated. I'll give you a quick example. If I drive a Model 3 Tesla, right? And if I have a flat tire and my wife sees it and comes and tells me, hey, Tro, you have a flat tire, don't drive the car, right? My emotions would be, holy crap, I feel supported, thankful, thank you for finding that out. I wouldn't have seen it, right? And I would say, thank you, I'd feel gratitude. And so what I do next is fix the car. And if my wife comes and tells me as I'm about to eat a pizza and she did when I was 350 pounds, and she would say, maybe you shouldn't eat that for your health. I'm angry, agitated. I say, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. I'm a grown man. Don't tell me what to do. And those feelings that I have, the emotions, are not gratitude and support and love. They're anger, agitated, defensive, obstinate, stubborn. And so, when you have this kind of baseline emotional disconnect between your desire to be a healthier person, eat better, and your emotions aren't exactly the same as any other thing you'd advocate for, you have to start to ask yourself, is there a relationship to food that needs to be explored? And, does this person need more help than nutrition? Now, I'll tell you, the people coming to me, 20% need nutrition only, right? But
Just 20%?
Just 20%. But again, I'm the low carb MD guy. I'm the guy who talks about food addiction. I'm the guy who says, if nobody else has helped you, come to me. So, it could be that the people coming to me are, resonate to that message. And we're helping those people to a pretty significant degree. But 80%, and I'd say maybe even more than that, 90% have a serious relationship to food issue where it's not just the nutrition, there's a lot more than nutrition. And that takes coaching, that takes support, that takes empowering patients, right? That to not blame themselves and to become an active participator in their health, and a lot of confidence building, coaching, interaction, a lot of, it's a different community. You can turn to the AA model to kind of get a sense of what that would look like. But even more than that, we're a medical team of doctors, coaches, personal trainers. We're monitoring, scales, blood pressure cuffs, sleep studies, glucose meters in real time. I mean, it's a very, immersed weight loss experience.
Well, I think that can be a real relief of shame for a lot of people just to hear you describe that, because I think it's tempting for like the average person to look at their body mass index or whatever as a math equation. And what you're describing is not at all math. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's more complicated than that, just as humans are more complicated. And as you alluded to, food addiction, I've heard you say in another interview, eating some calories leads to eating more calories, which isn't that, if I remember right, the Greek yogurt experiment that you did about satiety?
Yeah. I mean, so that wasn't even a calorie. That's the drive to eat from sweetness. So I've gone into the literature for quite a bit, and I can tell you that, yeah, absolutely, the type of calories can modulate hormones, can modulate how you eat. If you eat something with a ton of carbohydrates and processed carbohydrates and you're insulin resistant, your blood sugar goes up and then falls back down 2 hours later. If you've ever wondered after eating pizza why you're craving more pizza despite eating a ridiculous amount of food, how is it that you're still hungry? If you've ever asked yourself, you ate Chinese food 3 hours later and then you're eating the cold Chinese food and you're like, how does this taste so great? It's because your blood sugar is crashing back down and leading you to eat more. So yes, our food can impact how we eat. And this has been displayed in the literature to a great extent. And it goes beyond just the type of calories and carbs. You could even, see how the sweet taste can jack your appetite. And I think you're talking about the time where I took a plain Greek yogurt. I put a tub of it and it was like, all right, I didn't eat all day. And I ate a tub of yogurt plain and I was ridiculously full. I had to force myself to finish the tub. It's not a lot of calories. It's like 600 calories, but, I couldn't make myself eat more. And then the next day I was like, all right, let me fast again and see what happens if I just add strawberries. And it's not a lot of calories, the strawberries, and you'd think more calories would make me more full. It didn't. I finished the tub. The strawberries, I wanted more. I ate 2 tubs and I was still hungry for more. And I was like, okay, well, was this the fruit or is it the sweet taste? And I did the same thing the next day, didn't eat anything and just it was a sweetener. I forget if it was Splenda or stevia or what it was. And I ate 2 tubs and I was still hungry at the end. And not everybody responds the same way, and this is just me self-experimenting, but those carbohydrates can make you eat more, the sweet taste can make you eat more. And so if you have food addiction, if you need help more than just cut your carbs, this is the type of expertise you really need. And to come back, I trained with the leading experts. I've been to, conferences with the leading experts in obesity, and this is like, they don't even know anything about this. They're sitting there still confused if eggs are good or bad. So when you say, doctors mean well, I've stopped thinking that, In fact, there was a doctor I just reamed on social media because, he's now an obesity doctor, charging people $100 a month to get a drug. And this guy like literally just, had a company that sold supplements, and he was shut down by the FDA for being predatory. And this guy is now like a leading face of obesity. He gave a debate at a big obesity conference, And so they don't realize that the doctors who mean well, they're actually sometimes quite predatory. And so I've stopped giving doctors the benefit of the doubt anymore.
Yeah, that I could see why I could see why you would do that. It's just so disempowering to, face those facts as a non-medically educated person. So before starting any new diet, what is important for, average people to know before they try something different?
Yeah. So what are the side effects of dieting? That's what I would, and maybe we could do this like right now. Like, how do you eat right now?
Me personally?
Yeah. How do you eat?
Yeah, pretty low carb actually. I like for breakfast, I usually like bone broth, beef bone broth with spinach and 2 poached eggs. And then,
So you're paleo low carb. That's already a paleo. So if somebody tells me they're into the kind of tribal paleo real food space. Okay. And then what's for lunch?
Just sort of depends. Lunch is usually a leftover of whatever I made for dinner. So I usually cook 3 or 4 times a week. So it's usually some sort of animal protein and, some sort of side, usually like a veggie or, not usually, sometimes rice. I do like rice, like a jasmine rice, but yeah.
So like a protein, vegetable, on occasion, a carbohydrate.
Yeah, and then coffee afterwards. I always love afternoon coffee.
So coffee to top your meal, and then what's for dinner? If you do dinner.
Yeah, I do dinner. Let's see. We just bought a cow. So it's usually me going to the freezer and picking out some sort of cut of the cow. So like steak and maybe like sweet potato or I love mushrooms.
You're like a paleo, low-ish carb, very low glycemic index, real food diet.
Yeah.
Right? So let's just say you had, let's pretend, this is you 10 years ago before you ate these things.
Okay.
Were you eating those things 10 years ago?
I was, yeah.
Oh, you were. What about 15 years ago?
If we go all the way back to high school, which would be 20 plus years ago, no, I was eating, the standard American diet. And I was a soccer goalie who had just quit soccer. And I don't know if you know about soccer goalies, but we thick. So I was still eating like I was a soccer goalie. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, ramen noodles for breakfast.
Ramen noodles and peanut butter. Perfect. Let's say I come to you, ramen noodles and peanut butter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, listen, to be healthy, you got to cut everything out. You got to cut pretend it's not even low carb. I'm like, cut your calories. Maybe I say cut your carbs. Maybe I say cut processed food. Doesn't matter. I'm telling you to cut something. Okay? So I tell you to cut something. What's the side effect of cutting something?
I'm hungry.
Yeah, hunger is one. Keep going.
Like if you had told high school Meredith that, I would have been panicked also because
what am I going to eat?
Yeah, because my blood sugar would spike and drop and I'd fall asleep in class. And that hungry feeling made me feel sick.
So you'd have reactive glycemia. Like, what am I going to do when I'm like sick and I need something to pick me up? So hungry, panicked. What else?
Pissed.
About pissed. So you mean hangry?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So hangry.
Yep.
What else? Let's say you do it. Yeah, you cut whatever it is I said, right?
Yeah.
Your calories, cut whatever, cut your time off of real life and spend more time on MyFitnessPal, whatever it is, you cut something, okay?
Right.
So what happens to you a weekend? You're hungry, you're pissed off, you're like, what the hell am I going to do when I feel like shit?
Yeah.
Okay, what else are the side effects?
I mean, there's like that pushback of whatever you tell me to do. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Feelings of deprivation. Why can't I have that? I
Yeah.
don't want to do what you told me. And why can't I eat the things that I used to eat and what they're eating and what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So feelings of deprivation. So hunger, cravings, feelings of deprivation, and a little bit of anxiety of what the hell am I going to do?
Yes.
What else?
I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. Those are
That covers it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got the holidays going on right now. I don't know when this podcast is going to happen, but when it's going to air, but we have Christmas coming up. Okay, so the holidays are coming up, and what's going to happen when everybody's not eating bone broth and poached eggs? What's going to happen?
It's just going to come all back because I'll be at those parties. And
so you're going to have social triggers, and maybe you and whoever are going to go on vacation somewhere, right? And what are you going to eat there?
I mean,
right? So,
yeah, airport food.
Yeah, airport food and whatever, right? So what happens is so you're not prepared. So you're hungry, you have cravings, feelings of deprivation, don't quite understand what it is you're going to, anxious to some degree. And then you're going to face, holidays, social situations, vacations where often people struggle. And then on top of all of that, right? So what happens when you're staring at that something that you shouldn't be eating? What happens?
It's just like an internal battle.
Yeah, you face the decision fatigue. So the cerebral load is very high, and you have decision fatigue, right?
Right.
Is that me or you? I don't know.
No, that's something fell. That's okay.
Got it. Okay.
The dishes.
Is everything all right?
The dishes fell. Yeah, they're fine.
Okay. So you face all these things: decision fatigue, cerebral load, social situations, vacations, holidays, feelings of deprivation, hunger, cravings. So if you start a diet and you haven't addressed those things, and you're like me, despite being highly educated, you don't know what you're up against. Remember me struggling back then. What do you think is going to happen?
Failure.
Bingo. So if you don't take care of those things and you start a diet, expect to fail. And as long as you know that, as long as you know you're set up to fail, then go do what you want to do, right? And if you can't manage those things, don't do it, right? Or don't do it expecting much more than what you're putting in.
That is interesting. Yeah, that's a really good perspective. I talked with a food addiction expert, Dr. Joan Ifland. Are you familiar with her?
Yeah, I know me and Joan Ifland talk frequently.
I really enjoy her. I really, really like her. And she says to consider the first step to be to change the, how does she word it? Like the messaging. That's how she words it. So change the messaging. So remove like the television commercials, the people in your life, like find community, find positive peer pressure basically. Because when you, what I've noticed, if I'm working to reach a goal or I'm getting back on track or whatever, it's like, why are there donut everything? Like, do you have to have a donut tie? Like donut pool float, donut everything. I'm like, why is everything a freaking donut? Like you notice all of the messaging. And I know you study some food addiction also. Do you find that removing the messaging is also helpful for your patients?
You know what? I think it's understanding what you're up against. So I'm not look, there was a study on obese raccoons. Okay. And I know Joan Ifland's very well. Okay. I know Joan Ifland very well. And I love her work. I love her textbook is light years ahead of, and she is so insightful, beyond insightful. And she's absolutely right. These things do play a factor in our lives, but it's the food, right? The food is the number one thing, right? So it's the food. And there was a study on obese raccoons, and they looked at, raccoons in the city versus raccoons in the suburbs and versus the raccoons that lived out in the country. And there was a direct relationship to how close they were to the city with how obese and diabetic and arthritic they were, right? So the raccoons in the city were obese, they had diabetes, and they had arthritis, and the ones that were in the suburbs were overweight, pre-diabetic, and had just some arthritis. And then there was, the country raccoons who had none of them really. And if you look at those raccoons, while it's true, there's more commercials and advertisements in the city, what the veterinarian said was most likely the cause of their obesity was access to garbage, and garbage is 90% processed carbohydrates and sugar, right? So I don't believe that it's the messaging on the billboards that's driving those raccoons to eat more. I don't even think that they have any cognition about what those billboards say or what they don't say. Do they respond to the McDonald's logo? I'm not really sure. I don't think so, right? But
I mean, they are pretty smart, so I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty. But it's funny. I saw a video the other day I posted on social media of a raccoon literally breaking through into a airport, going to where the vending area is, and literally putting his hand into like this shop and pulling out a Twizzler and then eating it. So I don't think it was the reality is it wasn't the Twizzler messaging that brought that maybe it could be a small part of it. So the messaging, yes, it's important to be aware of how you can be conditioned to some of these messages, how they play on you, how they affect you. And ultimately, I'm a big believer in manipulate your environment to make it easy, but just the food. It's the food, right? The food makes you eat more. Find food that doesn't make you eat more. Find ways of making the things you can't live without in a way that doesn't make you eat more. So if you need a donut and you really, really need it to look like a donut, well, you can make ground beef look like a donut.
Oh,
if it needs to taste like a donut, well, then make it with almond flour and some monk fruit. And it's not an ideal, but if you're coming off of donuts and you can't stop eating donuts, then maybe, try a alternative that's less addictive, and then work your way down from there. So our approach is usually the less harm approach. I know Joan is more like just get rid of it. You have to eat real food. You have to eat real food. And I think some people are moderators, some people are abstainers, and you got to figure out which one you are.
There's a lot of mindfulness throughout, like as a theme of what you're talking about. And I think we could all benefit from being more mindful. I think a lot of the resistance does come from when, it's like an all or nothing situation, but maybe you need it to be all or nothing. I think there's just fear and trepidation of figuring out what it is a person needs. But, what they say, like when the pain of change and the fear, how does that saying go? Like you'll change basically when you're in enough pain.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I think most people want to change. I have helped probably 2,000 people lose weight or reverse diabetes. I've worked with 2,000 patients or more, and I have not met one person who wanted obesity or wanted diabetes. Not one, right? Not one of them. Okay, not one of them. Nobody wants this. I think most people are just disenfranchised with the process, and maybe they focused on changing the commercials instead of changing addictive food that's in their house.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing is how do we empower people to take the first steps, and how do we stand by them and not elicit shame and guilt and all those things that make people want to withdraw? How do we make them a partner in their own care? How do we build their confidence? How do we get them to understand that everybody, including everybody who makes those commercials, wants them to fail? Once you can kind of create that mindset, which takes time, right? That's the secret sauce. And patient empowerment is the secret sauce. That is if you said, why is it that, these schmucks did 4 pounds? These schmucks literally did 4 pounds, and they're publishing it. I would be freaking embarrassed.
I wouldn't publish it. That's what I'm so surprised. I
would have been embarrassed. I would have been like, okay, University of Pennsylvania, Department of General Internal Medicine. I'm sorry, guys, but I would be embarrassed to publish this,
Yeah.
But the thing is how do we actually help people? It's you have to empower them, and you have to actually have an effect. You can't do, automated text messages, right? I kid you not. I'm reading here, few primary care providers have time and training to provide weight management counseling. This study was, a referral to a comprehensive automated digital weight loss program with or without provider email feedback. This is what the best and the brightest are doing. This is what they think of you. We just need to send you a fucking newsletter. We need to send you a newsletter to cure your obesity.
Oh gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to, oh geez, sorry. We need to charge you $100 a month after we, started charging you, after we stopped peddling supplements to you. We need to charge you $100 a month to give you the newest weight loss drug. Or, you need to spend $500 a month to get IV vitamins. And I'm not knocking IV vitamins. I'm really not. I'm just saying sometimes it could be a little predatory.
Yeah.
Somebody like you who's healthy and is like just wants to experiment, try a little boost, try to, see what it feels like. Most people going to those places, right, want to solve serious health issues that are a lot deeper and harder than just, sign me up and load me up with a $500 bag.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Well, tragically, our time is coming to a close. Is there anything else that you want people to know out there?
Let me tell you, Meredith, when you contacted me, like, we should talk about what we're going to talk, and I'm like, I can talk. Don't worry about it. I feel so embarrassed that I talk so much. I'm sorry.
No.
Not more of a discussion here, Meredith.
No, you did really, really great. I really think that the more people can have a different voice in the health space, the more that they will know just what you said, that they can be more empowered than they are currently. And I think that knowledge will allow them to kind of go down this path of discovery to figure out not only what's going on with their own body, their connection to food, as you said, their relationship with food, but also sussing out people that are, more educated. And just because they have more education, it doesn't mean that they're automatically a right fit for you. And this generation, I think, is doing a better job at questioning authority. But like my parents, that generation and the generation just above them, they definitely do whatever their doctor tells them to. So I think just having this conversation and letting them hear it is empowering, knowing that there are physicians out there who are middle of the road, not, totally going to go do ayahuasca in the forest and not totally just going to put you on a statin because you're 40. And that's what we do.
Well, so I'm not convinced that our generation is any better. If you're talking about 20 to 40, let's say, if you look at, the adolescent and young students. So there was an article that got published by, kind of friends of mine in the British Medical Journal about maybe we got the booster situation wrong in kids and we shouldn't have recommended it to them. Certain European countries are, but if you look at the United States, certain European countries no longer recommend boosters for kids, right, under 40. If you look at the adoption in the United States, it's wild compared to Europe. And so I don't know if we have enough question. I'm not telling you to listen to your doctors. This is a very nuanced discussion, but I'm not sure we're questioning enough.
Yeah.
And even that young population, I don't think we're questioning enough. Sorry if I brought a controversial topic up, but
No. I think it's good because we need to learn the questions to ask, and it's okay to walk into a subject matter and only have questions. And, as it's easy for adults. I don't know. I feel so weird. I'm an adult now, but so it's, it can feel unsettling to not even know the question to ask. It feels you feel like you're floating out in space. And so I think that, this is all good. This conversation was good. I'm so glad people will know about your clinic and the resource. So tell everyone where they can, follow your podcast, and if they're local to you, even engage in your practice.
Yeah, so our practice is in 48 states. So we are a telemedicine practice, 2 physicians, 3 health coaches, 2 personal trainers, awesome front desk staff, great onboarding team. We've published 7 or 8 papers, 9 papers now. I forget how many. We're working on more. Yeah, if you want to find us, drtro.com, spelled out, doctortro.com. And yeah, we have a podcast. We've been going on 4 years, top, I don't know, 10 in medicine usually, and Low Carb MD podcast. And if you are not tired of hearing me at this point, go check the podcast out. But, this was awesome. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you're still here. That's awesome. I hope to see you next week too. I talk with the most interesting people that you've probably never heard of. Most of them are paradoxical and bring an opportunity for you to grow as a person. So if you like bright, meaningful entertainment, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.